Coming on the show now is Congresswoman Diane Black from the great state of Tennessee, who was a nurse for many years. I read that in Real Clear Politics just yesterday. I believe it said 40 years, but then I can't believe Congresswoman Black could actually be a nurse for 40 years. So, Congresswoman Black, welcome to Made in America.
Well, it's great to be with you, and I will say that now I'm saying for over 40 years, so I'm figuring I shouldn't give people the exact number of years that I've been a nurse because they'll know how old I am then.
Yeah, but, your picture belies that detail there. That's what what happened here, and what happens next, and where do we go from here?
Well, I had the opportunity yesterday to read the dissenting opinion by Scalia and the two other judges, and it was very interesting because I think that as I read what Scalia had to say, I agree with him that the words are pretty clear. I encourage people to go out there and get that dissenting opinion because it really is a very well written, that there were a lot of legal gymnastics done to get to where they got to.
So is there a, I guess one way would have been that the Republicans right now would have been scrambling to put together their alternatives. And now that, I guess, is not the case. Obama said, hey, look, now this is woven into the fabric of America, and it's just time to accept. The liberal media is out there saying it's time for the Obamacare haters just to go away. But I doubt that that's going to happen because it's a bad law. A lot of people are getting hurt by this. So is it a 2016 issue, or is there another legal challenge around the corner, or is there some sort of compromise to where the Republicans and Democrats will try to so-called fix it?
All very good questions. And let me just first of all say that this is not a Democrat or Republican issue because we have Democrats who are hearing the same thing in their state that we're hearing, and that is the cost of the care is going up, that the out-of-pocket expenses are so high it's almost not even worth having a policy. And this is really hurting very real people. And so our idea of getting a repeal and replacement is to replace it with something that really is more patient-centered and market-based, rather than the way in which they did it, where they said they were going to save people money and put $2,500 average in an American family's pocket. And I have families calling me every day. As a matter of fact, in my state, the insurance commissioner testified before our Ways and Means Oversight Committee just this last week, and Commissioner McPeak said 36% is what our average cost is being asked for by our insurance companies because the things that the administration said would happen didn't. That is, young people didn't come in, the cost of health care is rising, and people aren't able to get the kind of care that they got even before when the president said, if you like it, you can keep it.
Well, and that's very, very true. And if you speak, actually, my wife happens to work in the healthcare industry, and she runs a doctor's office. She's a manager of a doctor's office and does all the accounting work and stuff like that. And when you talk to the doctors, you talk to the hospitals, because she does that all the time, they say exactly what the Congresswoman just said, and that's the truth. You have health coverage, but you don't have any health care. And a lot of the procedures that people need right now, Neal, are not being covered on this very limited, very small parameter Obamacare type of policy. And as a result of that, the out-of-pocket from the average American is exorbitant. And that message really needs to get out better than it is right now, although ironically, it's happening on Main Street. At some point, it's going to explode and people are going to know about that.
Can I also add something that is a very personal testimony here, is that I live in the state of Tennessee, and we were the pilot project for the single-payer system. It happened when Bill Clinton was still in office, and Hillary couldn't get the Congress to go along with her ideas, so they brought it to Tennessee, and we were the pilot project. We had it here for about 15 years. We saw the very same things happening. It finally did implode. It collapsed on its own weight, and we no longer have that program here in the state of Tennessee. It is what got me to run for Congress to begin with. I had already been through it at the state level, and now I'm seeing the very same thing happen at the federal level.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, when you watch what happened, with Roberts 1 and Roberts 2, it just seems like, and I think Scalia was leaning towards this because I, too, read his his commentary quite often yesterday. We have an activist judiciary right now. I mean, that's it. We seem to be responding emotionally. We seem to be rewriting. I mean, evidently, Robertson, the first time, Roberts 1.0, actually rewrote the law, made it a tax. It's not the way it was written. And in all actuality, that should have gone back to Congress, because Congress only has the authority to write tax law. So it seems like, we seem to be going down a very, very slippery road here.
Absolutely agree. And I will tell you, I'm 64 years old, and I studied about all of this in history classes about how the Supreme Court is the law. They interpret the law of the land. And this is not interpretation. This is not what I learned as a student. This is putting your own opinion on what you would think if you were a congressman, if you were in the place of writing law. And so it's now the courts who are writing the law. We see it at the Supreme Court, but we see it all the way down the court system. It's very serious, and we have got to turn this around. We're not going to do that under this president. That's very obvious. But it is a very scary, slippery slope that we're going down.
So, Congresswoman, you do not believe that there will be any sort of a compromise, with the present administration and the present Congress to fix it. So it becomes a 2016 issue. Are there any other potential cases working its way up through the federal court system that could get to the Supreme Court? As Rich just said, only Congress can tax. And, this is a tax, and yet it wasn't passed as a tax. I mean, isn't that itself something that would be a constitutional challenge?
I think even today what came out from the Supreme Court is very concerning. You have 30 states that have spoken, their people, the electorate that should be we the people, has spoken about the whole issue of marriage. And now the Supremes are saying, oh, by the way, you as a state don't have a right to have your people say what they want. And so this really worries me about where we're going on that. There are other things that are working their way up to say whether they, for instance, the president just by a stroke of a pen, saying that 500 people here illegally now can be here in this country legally without going through any action from the Congress. These are all very, very scary things that are going on, which will eventually have us as a monarchy where you'll have the top person that has all of the power, and they'll just say, by the way, I think that's the way it should be done. Court, don't you agree with me? Okay, that's the way it's going to be done. Forget that about the people and we the people.
Yeah, that's really scary. And the other scary thing, and it was in the Washington Examiner, Congresswoman Black, about the compromise Data Act that I don't know if I got the words right, but essentially that the government's collecting all this data for Obamacare, and that data is being kept and stored, and that information, as we have seen recently with China, can easily be or potentially be hacked, and that you're saying that the government is obliged to have to inform you if your data under Obamacare has been hacked. I mean, that seems to be pretty reasonable to me.
Absolutely is reasonable, because the government requires that if you're a private sector person and your information is exposed and breached, that they're required to notify you to let you know that has occurred so that you can take action.
Absolutely, and it makes perfect sense to me. I hope you get it passed. I mean, it seems like something that they should do for us. I mean, if we're going to have to live with this for the next couple of years, they should at least tell us if our information has been hacked. And they have not been very good at protecting this information. Congresswoman Black, thanks for being on the show.
If the federal government requires the private sector to do it, it ought to do the same thing. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We love the work you do.
Made in America.